Good evening and welcome once again to Irish Television Chicago. My name is Tom Looney.
And I'm Siobahn Bhuachalla. And coming up on Irish Television tonight, we have lots of music for you from the Bards, Patrick Street. We've got recent footage of Pat Woods from his visit to the Abbey and something totally new starting off the show tonight. Tom?
Yes, Siobahn, we have a great piper with us tonight, Timothy Britton, as well as some folk singers, and John Williams has also been here through the year in the sessions at the Abbey. But to start off the evening, here is Timothy Britton and the pipes.
That was just a sampling of the session music that we have here at the Abbey every Wednesday and Sunday, so do drop in and see us. Now we've got some music from the Bards.
I can tell you. Anyway, here's a song. Hope you like it. It's called The Old Dungarvan Oak.
3, 4.
As I roved out one morning, going to Dungarvan Fair, I spied a pretty maiden with the sunlight in her hair. Her way was so delightful, her voice rang like a bell, and as I overtook her, I asked if she was well.
Lay down your wood, shawl me love, I swear it is no joke. And I'll tell to you the story of the old Dungarvan Oak.
As we approached Dungarvan, the girl at me did stare, and she asked me why I raised my hat to a tree so old and bare. I told her of the legend, if the tree should e'er come down, they'd be a great disaster, and Dungarvan would be down.
Lay down your wood, shawl me love, I swear it is no joke. And I'll tell to you the story of the old Dungarvan Oak.
Then she started laughing, my face grew very red, and she said that only fools believed what these old legends said. Her laughter was contagious, for the truth to you I'll tell. By the time we reached the marketplace, I began to laugh as well.
Lay down your wood, shawl me love, I swear it is no joke. And I'll tell to you the story of the old Dungarvan Oak. Whoa, up.
As I sit here by my fireside, it's the autumn of my life, and the darling girl I met that day is now my darling wife. I have a lovely daughter and a son to push my yoke, and all because I raised my hat to the old Dungarvan Oak.
Sing it with us.
Lay down your woolen shawl, me love, I swear it is no joke.
And I'll tell to you the story of the old Dungarvan Oak.
Do you know it?
Lay down your woolen shawl, me love, I swear it is no joke. And I'll tell to you the story of the old Dungarvan Oak.
How was the old Dungarvan Oak? Thank you very much.
Welcome back. Well, during the past year we've had Pat Woods here at the Abbey Pub, and you might have seen him on previous shows. And now we're happy to have Pat Woods back again, and we taped him over the last few weeks. And here's a tune now from Pat Woods.
Come over the hills, my bonny Irish lass. Come over the hills, dear darling. You choose a road, love, and I'll make the vow, and I'll be your true love forever. Red is a rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is a lily o'er the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the Moy. My love is fairer than ever. ways that we stray, with the moon and the stars they were shining. The moon shone its rays through her locks of golden hair, and she swore she'd be my love forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the Boyne. But my love is fairer than any. Was not for the parting of my sister king, was not for the grief of my mother, it was all for the love of my bonny Irish lass. My heart is breaking forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows. Fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the Boyne. But my love is fairer than any. Thank you for the song entitled Red is the Rose.
Time now for our news and sports section, and while we're on the subject of current affairs, I think it's interesting to note that this week marks 20 years since the instigation of the civil rights movement in the north of Ireland. And sometimes, Tom, I wonder just how much we've achieved, if anything, in 20 years.
That's true, Siobahn. At times you do wonder about that. At least, though, in the state of Illinois, we did get the McBride's Principles passed, which I think is a very important part of this whole thing, and certainly it's a plus for us and the overall employment, I guess, in Northern Ireland. But now here is Mike Schevlin in the news.
Good evening. There has been widespread public condemnation of the verdict delivered at the Gibraltar inquiry last weekend. Mr. Peter Barry, the Irish opposition spokesman for Foreign Affairs, said last week that a full independent inquiry is absolutely necessary to establish beyond all doubt that there was no other option open to the SAS but to kill the 3 volunteers. The SDLP chairman, Mr. Alban McGuinness, has called for close cooperation between the SDLP, the British Labour Party, and the government of the Republic to pressurize the British government to hold a judicial inquiry. Mr. McGuinness said that the lawful killing verdict has only increased the cynicism and skepticism among Catholics and nationalists in the North. He said that in this reaction there was very little distinction between Sinn Féin and SDLP supporters. Alban McGuinness said that the universal feeling after the verdict was that they had seen it all before. He listed the shoot-to-kill allegations against the RUC, the Stalker Sampson reports, and the early release of Private Thane, a British soldier jailed for killing a young Catholic. The basic view is that there is one law for the security forces and another for ordinary citizens, particularly so if they are Republicans or Catholics. Mr. McGuinness is a prominent lawyer in the North. He said the fact that the jury failed to reach a unanimous verdict could not be underestimated in importance. It must have been terribly humiliating, he said, for the British government that even a loyal jury could not behave as might have been expected. The SDLP chairman also paid tribute to the performance of Mr. McCrory, lawyer for the 3. Mr. Niall Farrell, brother of Myriad Farrell, spoke to reporters about the jury situation. He said the fact that the jury was deadlocked after 6.5 hours of deliberation and the fact that there were 2 brave men on that jury who held out showed what a travesty of justice had taken place and what a tenuous victory this was for the British Crown. Mr. Farrell finished by asking if Mr. Haughey was as brave as the two jury members. He said the Taoiseach has got to take the case to the European Court. The Irish government has said that it will be considering the outcome and listening to the report of their official observer at the inquest before any comments will be made. On the Monday following the Gibraltar verdict, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, suddenly postponed a screening of their weekly documentary program, Panorama. The subject of the broadcast was to be the role of the SAS in the north of Ireland. The Director General of the BBC, Mr. Michael Schevlin, said it had been decided that more work was necessary to prepare the documentary for transmission. The National Union of Journalists in Britain was outraged by the decision. The union asked to meet with the BBC to discuss the issue and issued a statement which said, "We deplore this action as another example of government pressure and censorship being brought to bear." The program was intended to be a follow-up to the Gibraltar inquest findings. It included interviews with a former head of legal services in the north of Ireland, the SDLP leader, Mr. John Hume, and an SAS soldier who had served in the north. The program had also intended to scrutinize the operation of inquests in the north of Ireland. It also asked why several inquests into deaths between 1982 and 1984 were never held. The BBC said this week that the program would be screened in the coming weeks. They declined to comment when asked if any changes or cuts would be made to the original program. And still on Northern news, a new book published last week presents a new challenge to the conviction of the group known as the Guildford Four. Time Bomb was written by two Yorkshire television journalists, Grant McKee and Ross Franey. The most startling allegation in the book concerns Carol Richardson, one of the four Irish people convicted of the Guildford bombings in 1974. The book alleges that a police surgeon had administered a drug known as pethidine to Mrs. Richardson in a 50-milligram dose, and that it was shortly after this that she began to implicate herself and the other three in the bombing. Ms. Richardson was 17 in 1974 and was at the time a habitual drug user. Mrs. Richardson is known to have been given other drugs while in custody to deal with her drug dependency, and it is thought that her confession was signed while under the influence of narcotics. The authors of the book have said that they believe there is a need for a complete judicial inquiry into the case, which is currently under review by the British Home Office. However, Mr. McKee said that he did not hold great hope for the successful outcome of any inquiry in the light of the failure of the Birmingham 6 appeal earlier this year. The book also deals with the alibi witnesses for Mrs. Richardson, who claimed they were arrested and intimidated into giving false evidence when they presented themselves to the police as alibis for the accused. At the launch of the book, which was attended by the SDLP leader John Hume and the Fianna Fáil TD Mr. David Andrews, Mr. McKee said this was another case in the long tradition of British miscarriages of justice, but he said there was no justice nor security in wrongful convictions when guilty people are walking around. Time Bomb by Grant McKee and Ross Franey is expected to be on sale in the United States early next month. And finally this week, a story which takes us from Donegal to Limerick and then back north again. A civil jury in Belfast Crown Court could not agree on a verdict last week after 3 hours of deliberation over the name of a horse. Mr. Charles McMonigal, with an address at Quigley's Point, County Donegal, is accused of an attempted insurance fraud concerning a racehorse. Mr. McMonigal took out an insurance policy on a horse called Heather Rogan in November 1986. On December 24, 1986, he reported the racehorse dead and made a claim for $15,000. However, in August of 1987, a horse called Heather Rogan and owned by the claimant's son was found in County Limerick alive. Mr. McMonigal told the court that he had mistakenly named the horse while filling out the policy claim form, naming the horse Heather Rogan instead of Heather Rogan II. He said Heather Rogan II was the name of the horse that had died. It was called Heather Rogan II because it was told it was Heather Rogan's twin sister. The 6-day trial ended last Saturday because the jury was deadlocked on a verdict. Mr. McMonigal was released on a $12,000 bail. The prosecution said the possibility of a retrial on the charges was a reality. We'll keep an eye out for this story. That's the news for tonight. I'm Mike Schevlin.
Good evening. this is Eamonn Kelly with a review of Irish sports being brought to you by Craigan Federal Savings. Well, no doubt the major sports event in Ireland over the weekend was the replay of the All-Ireland football final between Meath and Cork. In the first replayed final since 1972, Meath answered their many critics with a solid organised performance against great odds to win the championship for the second consecutive year. They defeated Cork by the slimmest of margins with the final score, Meath 13 points, Cork 12 points. Although their winning margin was only 1 point, it must be stated that they fully deserved their victory. They suffered a devastating blow after only 6.5 minutes of play when their star centre fieldman Jerry McEntee was dismissed from the game by referee Tommy Sugru for punching an opponent in the face. The outcome looked bleak for Meath at this stage as they were trailing by 1 point and having to face the next 63.5 minutes with only 14 players. Almost immediately, they regrouped and accepted the challenge as true champions, and within 2 minutes, they tied the game. As has happened so many times in the past, a team that loses a player because of marching orders from the referee sometimes become an inspired group. We can look just back a few years ago when Dublin were short 2 players against Galway to put on an unbelievable defensive performance to win the All-Ireland title. More recently, Meath defeated Dublin in this year's league final with only 14 players. Well, yesterday they became men inspired again. It appeared that they had the extra man rather than Cork. Each Meath player seemed to give that little extra of himself to offset the loss of McEntee, whereas Cork appeared to be confused as to how to take advantage of the extra man. I thought it was a poor All-Ireland final and never reached the heights of the drawn game. It was obvious from the very beginning that it was going to be a close, hard-fought, physical battle between 2 evenly matched teams. Approximately 64,000 people watched the game in cool weather conditions, but ideal for Gaelic football. The first half was ruined by persistent fouling, with 20 free kicks being awarded in that period. Meath were more aggressive in that regard and were penalised on 13 occasions as opposed to Cork only conceding 7 fouls in the first half. It was when Meath concentrated more on playing football after McEntee was sent off that they showed signs of last year's standards. While the free-ridden first half prevented any hope of open, fast-moving football, it was not lacking in excitement. Due to the closeness of the scoring in the first 30 minutes, the game was tied no fewer than on 4 occasions, and there was only 1 point between the sides at half-time, with Cork leading by 6 points to 5. The standard of football improved tremendously in the second half as Cork were still struggling in their attempts to beat their opponents, or should we say, take advantage of that extra man. Meath were gradually gaining control. In fact, they dominated play for 18 minutes, or should we say they dominated play for an 18-minute period in the second half, during which time they scored 6 points to Cork's 1, to go into a 4-point lead with only 6 minutes left in the game. Although Cork fought back bravely, time ran out on them when they were only behind by 1 point. Now let's go to the videotape highlights of the game with Ger Canning of RTE, starting with the tense and rather explosive opening moments.
So Tommy Sugru checks. Meath play from left to right. And the first replay since 1972 is underway. And it's Cork's Shea Fahy who's held in the opening seconds. And a free to Cork. Driven down towards Shea Fahy, taken by Mick Lyons. And well and truly caught and taken down. Free to Meath. Just being a little bit angry. Jerry McEntee there, and Larry Tompkins and Liam Harnan.
And let's look at the opening score of the game, a point scored by Coffey.
Free quickly taken. Coonahan here. Pursued by Joe Castles. Left foot inside towards Barry Coffey. Judged it nicely, looking for the opening score. Cork have the lead and there are 2 minutes gone. The player we told you about who hadn't scored so far in the campaign, well, he's...
Now here's the incident that may have changed the course of the entire game, the dismissal of Jerry McEntee.
PJ Gillick unable to hold that. That's Niall Cahalane, and there was a wild fist that time, and the referee going back there trying to sort this one out, and Jerry McEntee is the player that he's trying to get a word with. Some of the others are shaping up to one another as well, and just as in the opening minute, it just took a wild blow like that to start the game moving again. And let's watch it once again as the referee checks with his linesman over there. Gillick couldn't hold it. Cahalane got onto it. Now watch what happened next. That's Jerry McEntee, and there's the fist which the referee hadn't seen. It's Jerry McEntee then that the referee has gone across to take his name, and he's been sent off. Sent off, Jerry McEntee, after just 6.5 minutes. The player about whom there was so much written and spoken before this match.
Following that incident, the teams were level 3 times before Larry Tompkins put Cork in front with this well-taken point.
And that's going to be a free for Cork. And it'll be right on the 45-metre line. Tony is a little bit winded. 13 minutes gone in the first half. 2 points apiece as the referee has a little word there with PJ Gillick, and it's a free from the 45-metre line by Larry Tompkins. This one he's judged to a T, and it's over the bar, and Cork are in front again. Tompkins' first score has come from a free, and it's come in the 14th minute of the first half.
With 1.5 minutes to go, or should we say with 1.5 minutes of the second half, Brian Stafford tied the game with this fine point from play.
Forward, Beggy is in the full forward line, being marked by Niall Cahalane. Meanwhile, that's Stephen O'Brien facing his own goal and taking it spectacularly. Leaving it behind to Stafford. Driven with the left boot, and the sides are level. The magnificent Brian Stafford picks that one over the bar. He's the game's leading scorer now. That's his 5th point. The first to come from play, and it's 6 points each.
Meath played their best football of the game during the 15th and 16th minute of the second half. Once again, let's go to the cameras of RTE as we see this action.
Martin O'Connell towards Bernard Flynn. Getting there just ahead of Tony Nation. That's a neat pick-up. The switch of Flynn might well work. That's over the bar. He's a relieved player. Meath have gone in front. Bernard Flynn is the scorer, getting away from Tony Nation. That switch seems to be coming off now. He got absolutely no. And Stafford, so alert. Towards David Beggy. They're playing with confidence now, looking to extend their lead. And they've stretched it to a 2-point advantage thanks to Beggy. 4 of the Meath forwards have now scored. David Beggy with the latest one. David Beggy had only scored 1 point in his last 3 games, but that's a vital one at a crucial time in the game.
Meath never looked back after that, and as I mentioned earlier, Cork tried desperately to tie the game in the last few minutes, and now let's review these dramatic ending minutes of the 1988 football final.
Magnificent manager he is, and a terrific group of players he's pulled together over the last few seasons. As we watch David Beggy chip it out there towards Matthew McCabe. Cahalane nips in there first for Cork, number 2. Referee once again whistles for a free, and that is now a total of 24 frees we've had in this second half, and 15 of them for Cork. John O'Driscoll almost in towards Stephen O'Brien, and it's Liam Hayes who reads it well. That's a crucial interception. Back into the middle towards Tony Davis. On my watch, 5 seconds of actual time left, but the referee may add on something. That breaks away to Barry Coffey. Off balance, it's Hayes once again, anchoring himself there around 13 metres out, and what we have we certainly will hold as the Meath message. Colm Coyle, Conor Coonahan. What a strange game this has been in so many ways. Cork with so much possession, but Meath with so much class and so much organisation. Barry Coffey. They come looking for another score. They'll have to be content with a point. Barry Poppy's first point of the match, and there's the bare minimum between them. Now, is there enough time for Cork to swing over another point and take this match dramatically into extra time? The referee is calling for the ball and it's all over. Meath are still the All-Ireland champions. Colin O'Rourke and Robbie O'Malley, two men who played a huge part in their success. The holders retain their title, defeating Cork for the second year in succession, and the baby Sam is theirs. By the very bare minimum, it ended Meath 13 points, Cork 12. And when you dwell upon it and think that Meath were down to 14 men for all bar the first 6.5 minutes, well, it's something that Frank Murphy and the others in the Cork camp will think about, I'm sure, long into the winter.
Agus Anish, Runham and Curran, Sam Maguire, or Joseph Cassiel, captain for Ireland.
He's 15 years a Meath player, and today he enjoys his proudest moment. Joe Castles very proudly takes the new Sam Maguire for Meath.
So Meath are the 1988 All-Ireland champions, winning their 5th title and have the distinguished honour of being the first team to bring home the new Sam Maguire Cup. Next year will be very interesting in both hurling and football, as both Cork and Meath will be bidding for their 3rd All-Ireland crown in a row. And so until next week at the same time, this is Eamonn Kelly bidding you all a very good evening.
Ted Fury was a famous travelling fiddler who collected songs and airs from every village in Ireland. He passed his great knowledge and talent on to his sons, who together with Davy Arthur make up a band of musical ambassadors loved and respected wherever people love music. Join us at the Abbey on October 19th for an evening with the Furies and Davy Arthur. Advance purchase tickets are $15. For more information, call 478-4408 or 539-6002. Don't miss this chance to experience Ireland's songs and ballads with the Furies and Davy Arthur. Well, they waited longer than they expected to, but Meath finally got their victory. Congratulations to the Royal County, All-Ireland champions once again. Now here's Patrick Street.
During my recent trip to Ireland, we visited Dublin, and this is a feature that we promised you last week, but due to our extended sports feature, we weren't able to show you. Here now is our recent Dublin bus trip.
This is Dublin City, Dublin, the city of the Black Pool, a blend of ancient architecture and modern commerce, the home of wit and literature. Dublin is a city standing proud amongst the cities of the New Europe, where dock workers, street hawkers, writers, poets, businessmen and politicians alike can all unite over one thing, a great joy in their native city. We invite you now to board the bus with us and take a jaunt around Dublin, a 1,000-year-old city looking forward to the 90s. The little red brick houses where generations of Dubliners like Brendan Behan and Sean O'Casey grew up lead us to Phoenix Park, once a symbol of British strength in the country, now the home of the Irish President, the headquarters of the Irish Police, and the site of the Papal Mass in 1979. Jonathan Swift called this the grandest park in all Europe. Phoenix Park opens back onto Anna Livia. The city's mother river and her winding historic streets have inspired many poets, writers and musicians. Dublin made me, and no little town, wrote Louis MacNeice. Patrick Kavanagh fell in love with her leafy canal walks. Music has always been the spirit of the city. The very first performance of Handel's Messiah was here in Dublin. Rock group U2 grew up playing their music on the Dublin streets, and the Fury Brothers were born and raised here. For the second part of the journey, we joined the Furies with a very special song they wrote for their own Dublin City, a city of the people.
She says you must go, like why you do so? For a week, maybe two, you try to forget. You refuse to give in, but you can't help thinking of her beauty. She beckons again, beckons you home once again. Take me back to the one I love, to her beauty. She beckons again. Take me back to the one I love, to her beauty. She beckons again. Beckons me home once again. On your return, you find nothing has changed. She protects, she provides for her own. She won't meet you halfway. She sends you on your way, and her beauty, she beckons again. Beckons you home once again. Take me back to the one I love, to her beauty. She beckons again. Take me back to the one I love, to her beauty. She beckons again. Dublin, sweet Dublin, welcomes me home once 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 again. Dublin, sweet Dublin.
Good evening. I'm Bridge Looney, and I'd like to share with you the upcoming events at the Irish American Heritage Centre. Remember, the Irish American Heritage Centre is here to serve the community. Why not plan your next party at the Irish American Heritage Centre? There are several party rooms available and the prices are reasonable. For more information, call the centre daily between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. The phone number is 282-7035.
Now, for those of you who want to take part in a once-only event here at the Abbey, have your pens ready. I'm about to give you some very important phone numbers. On October 19th, that's just 9 days' time, the Fury Brothers and Davy Arthur will be playing here live at the Abbey Pub. It's a small, limited number of seats because we want to create an intimate atmosphere so everyone can see the band and enjoy the music without being lost in the big acoustics of a hall. And the number for the last few tickets is 539-6002 or 478-4408. That's 539-6002, 478-4408. We'll take your calls, and remember, you can charge those tickets on your credit cards as well. So give us a call here. Tickets are going very, very fast. This is just about your last chance to get in.
Well, once again, we're at the end of another show. We'd like to thank you all for tuning in, and also we'd like to remind you that here at the Abbey Pub we've started our Irish traditional music sessions again every Wednesday and Sunday. Particularly, we have some great music here, as well as some food. Now, if somebody wants to come out and visit the Abbey and have a good meal in the afternoon, you're welcome to visit us here at the Abbey Pub. Siobahn, I think we have some good music to finish out the show this evening.
Yes, indeed. We're finishing with our star from the month of September, Mr. Pat Woods, who's now on his way home to Armagh. And as well as that, I want to tell you that coming up for the rest of this month of October, we have Bhuachalla and Parting Glass, so do drop in and say hello to us. And remember, that number is 539-6002 for tickets for the Furies. Good night.
Until next week, good night.
Joy Jail one Monday morning, high upon the gallows tree, Calvin Barry gave his young life for the cause of liberty. Just a lad of 18 summers, yet there's no one can deny, as he walked to death that morning, he proudly held his head on high. Just before he faced the hangman in that dreary prison cell, British soldiers tortured Kevin just because he would not tell all the homes of his brave comrades and the things they wish to know. Turn informer or we'll kill you, Kevin Bards.